Kiwi Farms, the notorious website dedicated to cyber-stalking, doxing, and cyber-bullying people for its users' demented amusement, is going crying to the Supreme Court like the little bitch that it is, asking the Supreme Court to reverse the lower court's decision that will force Joshua Moon to actually take some responsibility for its actions. And yes, I just used the pronoun its to refer to Joshua Moon instead of Kiwi Farms. Do something about it. In any event, the Supreme Court is highly unlikely to agree to hear this case, and today, I'd like to share with you why. What's up, guys? Acerthorn here, and this is my latest hot take on some internet drama. Okay, so a little bit of background here. Russell Greer, the plaintiff in this case, is an individual who was living a relatively normal life until he got targeted for harassment and doxing and cyber stalking by Kiwi Farms. Basically, it could happen to anybody, and all they have to do is just decide that you're a lolcow, and they will pursue you relentlessly and basically try to get you to kill yourself. You don't have to have done anything wrong, you just have to be whoever they don't like at any given point in time. So Greer basically just got picked more or less at random, and he was relentlessly targeted by Kiwi Farms. So Greer actually tried to go the diplomatic approach. Yeah, like try to explain to Hitler why anti-Semitism is wrong. Yeah, see how well that goes for you. And he basically wrote a book and self-published it on Amazon to explain why people need to just leave him alone. It backfired, and the harassment only intensified. What's even worse is the fact that Greer, his book actually got posted on Kiwi Farms. Well, technically, it was posted on Google Drive, and then somebody posted a link to that Google Drive, but that still counts. That still counts as being posted on Kiwi Farms. And, basically, they basically started sharing the book on Kiwi Farms for free without paying Greer one thin dime for it. And basically they even admitted in the forum post that they were doing this with the express goal of keeping anyone from accidentally giving Greer money. So as you can see, this was flagrant, and I mean blatant copyright infringement. Greer was absolutely within his legal and ethical rights to have that copyright infringement taken down. And for that matter, he would have been in his ethical rights to just see anybody who participated in that thread about him thrown in fucking jail. Because there is no First Amendment right to harass people. There is no First Amendment right to cyber stalk people. That is just... the First Amendment protects at least nominally productive speech. It doesn't protect harassment. That's why harassment is a crime in every state. Alright? So, there is no First Amendment protection here. So, not only would he be within his moral and legal rights to see his copyrighted content removed from the site, he would absolutely be within his moral rights to just ensure that anybody who participated in that site burns in hell. Now, that being said, Greer issued a DMCA takedown to the Kiwi Farms website, and Josh Moon, the owner of the site, he himself is the one who personally processed the takedown. request, and he's the one who made the decision not to remove it. Not only that, but he even reposted the DMCA takedown itself for laughs and encouraged the site's users to infringe on his copyright even more. And by his, I mean Greer's copyright. So, now that Josh Moon had lost his safe harbor, he filed suit against Josh Moon and Kiwi, that is to say Russell Greer, filed a suit against Josh Moon and Kiwi Farms in the federal district court for the District of Utah, which is kind of weird considering that Russell Greer is in Las Vegas and Joshua Moon is in Florida. So why is there jurisdiction in Utah? Seems kind of weird. In any event, basically, Joshua Moon kept insisting that he still had safe harbor because he hadn't actually contributed to the infringement, even though he literally encouraged others to infringe even more and gave his blessing as the website owner to actually do the infringement. That's not how it works, Josh. Anyway, the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals saw right through Moon's bullshit, and they decided that, Greer could have his day in court. Moon did, in fact, forfeit his safe harbor. So, Moon obviously was not happy about that. And you know what you do when you're not happy about a court ruling and you're ruling against you? You appeal it. Unfortunately, when you are already in the appellate court, the only place to go from there is the Supreme Court. So, Joshua Moon has filed what is known in legal terms as a petition for a writ of certiorari. And that's basically a really funky way of saying that you want the Supreme Court to agree to hear the case. Now, this is not the same thing as arguing the merits. You first have to convince the Supreme Court to even agree to hear the case in the first place, and if they agree to it, then and only then do you get to argue why the lower court's decision should be overturned. But in order to even get to that point, you first have to convince the Supreme Court to agree to even hear the case in the first place. That is what a petition for a writ of certiorari is designed for. And that is what Moon has filed. Now, right out the gate, this is the first reason why the Supreme Court is almost certainly not going to grant this petition, because he completely messed up on this matter. He was supposed to explain to the court why they should even agree to hear the case in the first place, but instead, as I read this petition, it becomes immediately obvious that they're just trying to argue that the Supreme Court should hear the case because the Court of Appeals fucked up. Sorry, Moon, you kind of skipped a step. Like I just said a minute ago, that's not how it's supposed to work. That's supposed to only come after the case, after the Supreme Court has granted certiorari. But here, you're arguing that they should grant certiorari because of reasons they're not even supposed to consider yet. I mean, it's kind of like if you were to argue that if a prosecuting attorney were to argue that the defendant is guilty because of reasons that relate to the sentencing. You're supposed to get the conviction first, and then argue for the sentencing. You should argue. First, you need to show proof that the defendant did the crime in the first place. Then you can start arguing about aggravating factors that justify an increased sentence. You can't just cut straight to the good stuff. There's a certain process that's involved here. That being said, even barring that, it's become pretty obvious that Moon's lawyers who are submitting this petition for writ of certiorari, or rather this brief on the merits that is wrongfully classified as a petition for a writ of certiorari, it's clear that you aren't considering the actual factors that the Supreme Court looks for. Now, I've actually posted this source a couple of times on this channel already. Suffice it to say, however, there's a problem with that. The webpage no longer exists. I don't know why the webpage no longer exists. There hasn't been a very massive shift in the way the Supreme Court actually operates since this page existed. So I have to assume that until I'm explicitly told otherwise by a credible source, I'm gonna have to assume that the contents of this old webpage are still valid, and I'm gonna proceed with making this video accordingly. The Wayback Machine still has an archived version of this webpage, so I'm gonna provide that in the sources in the description. Basically, as you can see here, the Supreme Court is extraordinarily selective of the kinds of cases it hears, and if more people knew about these criteria, there probably would be a lot fewer petitions filed in the first place. The most important thing they look for is a circuit split. Going back to my old 2022 video, How Not to Do Fair Use, remember, I even had a full section on circuit splits, so go and watch that if you want to know what a circuit split is. However, if you want to get the Supreme Court to grant certiorari, you're not allowed to argue the merits of the case first. That comes after they grant the certiorari. And the best way for an average Joe to get certiorari granted is if there was a circuit split. Barring that, you basically need to have an outstanding death sentence, like it has to literally be a case of life or death for you, or it has to be it has to involve one of the most important offices in the entire fucking country, like the presidency. Unless you have one of those three things, your odds of the Supreme Court agreeing to hear the case are 1 in a million. And notice at the bottom of this archived webpage, basically, if you're saying that the law is already well established and the Supreme Court and that the appellate court basically just didn't apply the law correctly, your case for your hopes of getting certiorari granted are pretty much dead on arrival, as you can see from this final paragraph. Now, that is basically the biggest reason as to why the Supreme Court is most likely going to deny the petition for the writ of certiorari. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, that sounds fucked up. I mean, the Court of Appeals is basically just given a free pass to do whatever they want with no accountability. Isn't that basically what that means? If the Supreme Court almost never grants certiorari whenever the Court of Appeals has just violated plainly well-established law, isn't that literally what that means? To that I say, yeah, that's pretty much what it means. In fact, I have a video on my channel that is nearly 6 hours long where I explain how, yeah, the corruption really is as bad as I make it sound. And I even have evidence out the wazoo to back that claim up. But there is hope. In Title 3 of that video, or more specifically, Section 3-3, I start explaining how we as a people could conceivably reform the government without the government even getting a say in the matter, if we just got off our asses and actually did some proper activism. Not slacktivism, not tweeting in outrage, but I mean actually going around door to door, collecting signatures and getting matters placed on the ballot. Like, that's going to require some actual work from people. But it is the best chance we've got. You want to pass... Basically, we don't need the government. 22 states have their own ways of... basically, we have... There's actually a lot of states where we can pass our own laws. They're called initiatives. So we can literally make whatever laws we want. You want to make it illegal for a politician to break a campaign promise? You can do that. You want to provide new avenues for police or or judge accountability because the existing avenues aren't good enough? We can do that. You want to require cops to carry body cam footage and to produce that footage in any case in which it is even arguably relevant? Yeah, go ahead. The problem is that most people either don't know about the initiative, or they're just too much of a lazy fuck ass to actually get off their fucking ass and actually do it. At that point, you deserve the corruption that you get. Basically, go and watch my 6-hour video. It's a long one. It's a biggie. But it's gonna have so much juicy info. It's as long as it is for a reason, because I really needed that much space in order to truly establish everything that this damn country is actually doing in order to basically be as corrupt as it possibly can get away with. So basically, that is my recent take on Kiwi Farms going to the Supreme Court for a case that is just not Supreme Court material. But of course, barring the corruption that I've already demonstrated, that I've already proposed the solution to, I will just say this. If it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, Josh, you are the scum of the earth. And while it is fucked up that the Supreme Court will likely not... while I do believe it... While the reasons the Supreme Court will not grant your certiorari is all of the wrong reasons, I'm still happy that it happens to you, of all people. And with that, I bid you all adieu. Acerthorn out. Peace.